But the way he killed Wilma is horrible because I'm the person that I don't mean to sound, I'm just going to tell you like it is, straight up. Her brains are scattered all over in that room. Just coming out the doorway, he shot her. Her brains went out all over. Blood was all over the floor. And Paul was laying in his own pool of blood. So when the cops got there and they do their little thing and left, I had to clean it up. There was no one else that could handle it. I cleaned it up using bleach, Pine Sol, and I still couldn't get it all up. It was stained so good. And let me tell you, seeing pits of a person's brain, especially someone who I love, it affected me deeply. And he deserves to spend the rest of his life in prison because I truly believe you let that man out, he'd do worse things than what I'm telling you about if it's possible.
Now, this unspeakable crime happened August 1st, 1994, broad daylight, 1:15 p.m. when he entered their family-run store, the store that they've been running since 1954 in Shreveport, Louisiana. Now, unprovoked, without any request, he suddenly pulled out his handgun and shot Paul Liberto in the neck. He then turned and shot his 77-year-old mother, Wilma Liberto, in the face. They then walked over to the back of the register, took out a few $100s of cash, and left. Make it make sense. Now, he was sentenced to life in prison without the opportunity at parole, but because of new legislation in Louisiana and the fact that he was under the age of 18, he is now eligible for parole. And that's why we are here today. Now, we are going to watch this Louisiana parole hearing. I have the appeals, which goes through all the details of the crime, which I will review in the end. And this is a no way Roche case, a no way Roche classic. And I'll have a surprise update for you at the end of this hearing. So, with that, let's jump in.
Okay, this is a case for Calvin Tolbert DOC 383656, classified as a first felony offender. Offense, first-degree murder. Sentencing date, June 3rd, 1997, and July 12th, 2016. Sentenced to life. Parole date is August 15, 2019. Good time, none. Full term, life. Is this information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Roche.
Thank you, Ms. Teresa. Good morning, Mr. Talbot.
Good morning, Mr. Roche.
My name's Alvin Roche, and I've been assigned your case. In all honesty, Mr. Talbot, I have not made a decision yet. Circumstances of your case leaves me undecided at this point. And this interview will determine my decision. I've been honest with you, and I hope that you will be honest with me this morning. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Talbot, you're 44 years old. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were 17 at the time you committed these offenses. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And to get it clear, you were charged with multiple offenses, but you were only prosecuted for the first and second degree murder of the female victim. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And there was another victim who was shot twice, who succumbed, I think 3.5 years later. And it was determined that he died from causes that were related to the two wounds that he had, one in his neck and one in his chest. And those 3.5 years, he was paralyzed. Is that your understanding?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So a little later on, I'm going to ask some questions concerning that, and hopefully you will be honest. So let's start by discussing what you've done since your last hearing. I want to know community involvement. I want to know community service. I want to know programs. And we're going to talk about disciplinary at a separate time because your 2017 disciplinary write-up still bothers me. It bothers me a lot. Even though it was 4 years ago, it bothers me that you would almost, and I would equate it to racketeering while incarcerated, but we'll cover that a little later. So tell me what you've been doing since your last hearing.
Well, since the last hearing, I was going to church. I got enrolled in victim awareness, completed victim awareness.
So let's stop there. Tell me what you got from victim awareness.
Victim awareness, well, I also learned from victim awareness more than one victim, the community, also the person I hurt, and family, other people.
So it gave you a sense of empathy. You put yourself in the place of that family.
Yes, sir.
So continue. What else have you done?
Thank you for a change. I enrolled in Thank You for a Change. And I also
What did that do for you?
did there, talk with thinking controls behavior and attitudes. And it also taught me how to get around problems and solving problems.
You think you had an attitude adjustment in the last 27 years?
Yes, sir.
And tell me exactly what led to that.
Well, when I first got here, I was young, still had an attitude, but as time went on, took anger management and smoothed out, started going to church, got spiritually inclined, and smoothed things out.
So any other things, any community service, toy shop, lookout project, anything?
Well, I went going to church. I went to AA meetings and stuff, and I helped serve the camp when the club feed the camps. We go back and feed the old timers, the ones that don't get nothing.
You were 17 years old at the time you were arrested, and you were just about to be revoked on juvenile probation because you had a gun charge when you were 16. So tell me what's different about the 44-year-old Calvin and the 16 and 17-year-old that had a firearms conviction and a first-degree murder conviction.
Well, the difference now, I'm not the same immature young boy with the poor decision making that I made back 27 years ago. I have grown. I took programs to better myself since I've been here.
Okay, since you said that, Mr. Tolbert, let's talk about your disciplinary.
Okay.
When you got caught using the Camp C Concept Club as a cover for one of the biggest enterprises that I know of in my 6 years on the parole board, it was discovered that you had cell phones, all kind of electronic earbuds, tobacco, and there was almost $3,300 of cash found along with that. You were 40 years old at the time. That doesn't seem like it shows a sign of maturity to me. About 5 years before that, you had another Class B write-up. And then 8 years before that, you had another one. From 1999, there was 5 to 8 year intervals where you had Class B write-ups. That doesn't show maturity. So it's only been 4 years, but you have a cycle of 4, 5, 6 years, you get a write-up. And I want to know why you said you were mature, you said you were rehabilitated, but there's a cycle of disciplinary conduct that is unacceptable. And I want to know why you would think it would be all right to have an illegal enterprise for profit while incarcerated.
Well, I didn't think it was all right. I was the president of the club. They did routine shakedown. They found contraband in the building. So I take full responsibility. I should have supervised my colleagues more, but I take full responsibility for everything because I should have supervised, better, been a better leader. And then since then, thank you for a change. But because since the last write-up, I see what it cost me. Sent me all the way back to the bottom. Went from sitting in lockdown to the worker cell block, back to medium custody. It also cost me my last board, so.
Thank you for your honesty. Do you have anything other than the things that you mentioned already that you've accomplished since your last hearing?
Well, those were the two I accomplished, but the pandemic kicked off, so it shut everything down.
And I imagine everything was all right because the reasons why you were denied last time was mostly because of that 2017 disciplinary write-up.
Yes,
Am I
sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, this is not a trick question. I want an honest answer. Do you think 27 years of incarceration is sufficient for a premeditated act? You were 17 years old, but you went into that check cashing place. You stood in line with your two compadres, patiently waited in line while other people got their checks cashed. Immediately upon getting to the counter, you shot Paul Libro. No, I need your money. You just shot him. Then you shot his mother. Your co-defendant, Mark Rando, then shot Paul the second time. Tell me what was the aim of that act, because there was two people that came in after you and picked up most of the money off the floor and was arrested for robbery. You raffled through the cash register, but you didn't take the money. So what was the objective of you going to that store and pointing a gun premeditatedly and causing the death of 2 individuals. I'd like to know why and what led up to it.
We were all hanging out. So we come up to the decision like, let's go rob the store. So we went to go rob the store. Mr. LeBert and Paul LeBert was shot in the process. Panicked, so we didn't get the money because we panicked and run out the store. So people that come in out the store, I did not know them at all.
But Mr. Tolbert,
Yes, sir.
was it possible that you brandished the gun and said, hand me over your money? They would have handed the money and you could have left? Why shoot someone in the eye? Because his mother was shot in the face. I just want an explanation because I don't understand it.
Well, at the time, we were smoking weed. Things happened.
You were on drugs.
Yes, sir.
Any alcohol involved?
No, sir.
So tell me when you started using drugs.
Around about 14.
14. And what was your drug of choice?
Marijuana.
Anything stronger? Did you graduate to something else?
No, sir.
And I have to ask, when is the last time you had any illegal drugs in your system? You will not be penalized. I just need to know, when is the last time you had illegal drugs in your system?
Well, the day of that crime, the last time I had illegal drugs, when I got here, I went and got substance abuse in the 12-step program because I know drugs altered my mind and drugs are bad for you. So I ain't want to go down that path no more. So I got help on the drugs side.
Okay, when was the last time any drugs was available to you and you resisted?
Well, to be honest with you, they have drugs available everywhere.
Yeah, okay. That's what I wanted to hear. Okay. Mr. Tolbert, I will make a decision. I will sit back and listen to my colleagues. If my colleagues have any questions, if not, Mr. Reese, would you recognize the supporters? And if there's any, yes, there's opposition from Ronald Harper. I think that's the victim's son or grandson. Ms. Teresa.
We will now hear from Andrew Hunley from Louisiana Parole Project.
Good morning, Honorable Board. Andrew Hunley, representing Louisiana Parole Project. Calvin Tolbert has been a client of our organization for nearly 3 years now. I do not speak to you today on behalf of Calvin Tolbert, the teenager who made a horrible decision 27 plus years ago. Rather, I speak to you on behalf of who Calvin Tolbert is in 2021. Our organization began working with Calvin before his first parole hearing and began preparing him and talking to him about his reentry plan and what our expectations as an organization are. Calvin was denied parole at his first hearing for multiple reasons. However, over the last 2+ years, Calvin has continued to work to better himself and to put himself in a position to be ready to come home. We believe that since Calvin's denial, he has demonstrated further growth and maturity, having continued to maintain a positive disciplinary record over the last several years, but also to continue to take advantage of programs and job opportunities that have allowed him to grow. It is our belief that if Calvin Tolbert is released to our organization and takes part in our reentry program, that he can successfully and will successfully reintegrate into our community. Calvin has the strong support of Parole Project and other clients of Parole Project who will serve as peer mentors for Calvin and guide him through successful reentry if he's given that opportunity. Our organization commits to provide not only reentry services, but counseling and assess mental health and substance abuse assessments upon release, and to ensure that any recommendations are followed through, but also that he has continued case management services by our organization to ensure that all of his needs are met so he can be another success story. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Huntley.
We will now hear from Miss Lisa Finney, who's a sister.
Ms. Finley, you muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
You can go ahead and make your statement.
Oh, yes, sir. My name is Lisa Finney. I'm Calvin Tolbert's sister. Speaking on his behalf on this morning. I just wanted to iterate some things about my brother as far as growth, as far as maturity, and when he came in, how immature that he really was, and getting caught up with the wrong people and the wrong crowd. He has the support of his family. He have the support of the church, and we are here to encourage him. We're here to uplift him. We're here to pray for him and make sure that he's on the right path. We know that he's sorrowful for what he's done and what happened on that day, and he's paid for it mentally as well. And I just wanted to say that him being incarcerated has also given him the opportunity to get his GED. It's given him the opportunity to learn trades and things and the giftings that he has to bring them forth, because if he didn't, he wouldn't know that he had those gifts. And so we just thank God for where he is now mentally, and where he's going to be. And so that's what I wanted to say on his behalf. I didn't know if you all had questions for me or whatever, but I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Ms. Finley. Ms. Teresa.
Yes, sir.
I want to hear from the warden before we get to the opposition. Warden Falgood, would you like to make any remarks, observations, or comments?
Can't see.
Yes, sir. Mr. Tolbert has,
Can't see.
Mr. Tolbert has since the last hearing did what was asked of him as far as to continue with his programming. He has worked himself since that write-up from extended through working cell blocks to a field line, and he is currently and has been for the last a little over 2 years now been a file clerk at Camp D. And no further write-ups for him. And he is currently in medium custody.
Thank you, Warden. Ms. Teresa?
Yes, sir. We will now hear from the opposition side. We will start with Ms. Alexandra Horybsky from Cato's DA's office.
Good morning. I apologize for my tardy entrance. Unfortunately, we had some technical issues before I was able to enter the meeting. And so good morning, parole board members. My name is Alexandra Porupsky, Assistant District Attorney with the Caddo Parish District Attorney's Office. And I'm representing my office in opposition to Mr. Tolbert receiving parole at this time. As was illustrated by Mr. Roche at the beginning of this meeting, our office does have serious concerns for his release should he be granted parole, not only because of obviously the heinous nature of his crimes for which he was ultimately convicted, but also because of his continued misbehavior within jail. We do believe that both of those things in conjunction make him a high risk to reoffend. We believe that given the nature of his crimes, specifically as Mr. Roche described, walking in and without saying anything to the victims, shooting Mr. Liberto in the neck, paralyzing him, as well as shooting Miss Wilma Liberto in the face, we believe that he is a continuing danger to the community and that he's highly likely to reoffend. And we're specifically concerned, given especially that 2017 write-up, that he is likely to go back to his gang affiliations with which he was involved with at the time he committed this offense. We believe that he has not shown enough rehabilitation or remorse for that matter. And again, because of those reasons, we would oppose his parole if granted. And we would also just ask that he remain incarcerated.
Thank you very much, madam, for your participation. We always appreciate the remarks from the DA's office.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, our next speaker will be Mr. Ronald Harper, who's the victim.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I'd like to tell you what he done and how he done it to my family. I don't want him out. Let me tell you what he done for that community that I was a part of and what he did to my family. Well, when after the killing was over, we shut the store down, and a lot of black children, white children went hungry. A lot of old folks couldn't get the groceries no more because we took them to them. That was over. I mean, we helped that community all over. And that was the nice thing. That's gone. You know, it just ruined everything. We did more than just cash checks. We loaned money to people that called that needed it and get the kids out of jail. We did a lot of things in that community. But when he killed, might as well say killed Paul, he wasn't dead, but he had a horrible life. He just couldn't do nothing. I mean, it was horrible. He couldn't do anything. All he could do was use his right hand, but yet he was left-handed. It was hard on him. Can you imagine being a lefty and all the hand you got is your right hand? It was horrible. He couldn't even wipe his butt. I mean, everything had to be done for him. But the way he killed Wilma is horrible, because I'm the person that, I don't mean to sound, I'm just going to tell you like it is, straight up. Her brains are scattered all over in that room. Just coming out the doorway, he shot her. Her brains went out all over. Blood was all over the floor. And Paul was laying in his own pool of blood. So when the cops got there and they do their little thing and left, I had to clean it up. There was no one else that could handle it. I cleaned it up using bleach, Pine Sol, and I still couldn't get it all up. It was stained so good. And let me tell you, seeing pits of a person's brain, especially someone who I love, it affected me deeply. And he deserves to spend the rest of his life in prison, because I truly believe you let that man out, he'd do worse things than what I'm telling you about if it's possible. I have nightmares even today. No horror movie can even add to how horrible it really was. I did the best for Paul, but all of us was in a state of shock. My sisters, me, all of us are hurting. And it'd be a crime if you let him out, because he's where he needs to be. He can survive there. He can do something good there. But out, I don't think so. There's no way I can believe it. Even hearing what you were saying about what he was doing up there, he's not rehabilitated. He just wants out. And if you get him out, he will kill again. Because anyone that could be that cold-hearted, I mean, really cold-hearted, they'll kill again. And what I don't understand is they never filed charges that I know of about him shooting my stepfather. They got charges of murder on Wilma, but I didn't know, even heard them what they did for that. It was horrible. It hurt our family deeply. It hurt us financially. It hurt us emotionally. We felt lost inside. We didn't really know how to put the pieces up anymore. And that's all I got to say right now. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. We know how difficult this is appearing. We do appreciate your presence and your comments. Best wishes. Ms. Teresa?
Our last speaker for this case is Miss Rhonda Gardner, who's the victim's step-granddaughter.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Gardner, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, after my brother's testimony, he kind of summed it up pretty well, and so did the district attorney. You, sir, when you were speaking to Mr. Tolbert, went over the case fairly well. Age is just a number. He might have only been 17 when he committed this horrendous act, but he knew what he was doing. He led us to believe he was just on marijuana. Hard for me to believe, because it's hard to think that if that's the only drug he was on and he committed this heinous act with just being high off pot, that tells me it was more him than the drug. My brother made reference to he did not realize that he wasn't charged with Paul's murder. We were led to believe at the time that he would be charged for just Grandma Liberto, and that if he were to ever get out of jail, that he would then be charged with Paul. He admitted to shooting Paul because I think he thought it would give him less time. I'm not sure. I'm glad to hear he's going to church. I would hope that he receives Christ, because the way we feel, he needs to burn in hell. It was really hard being there when Paul woke up from the hospital, because then the memory had to come back to him, that he'd been shot and his mother's brains had been blown out. And it just changed everything. And the idea that this man thinks he deserves to get out? No. He was told, we wanted for him to get, they talked us into life. You know, we wanted to get rid of him, execute the man for what he did, you know, but we all agreed, well, he was young, and because of his age, then life was good enough for him, and that he could maybe contribute to, you know, as he grew in prison, to younger people that came in, he could grow and be an example for them, but that he still needs to have to pay for his crimes because he hurt our family. And like my brother told you, the community around us. Well, we were all one big family. And he came in there with the intent to murder. It wasn't just a robbery gone wrong. That was his intent. So, you know, his age really doesn't have anything to do with it. And I could probably go on, but like I said, a lot of it's already been said. And so I just pray the Lord gives y'all the right decision. And that'll be all for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gardner. Mr. Reesa?
That is all of our speakers, Mr. Roche.
Okay. Attorney Hogan, we will proceed as you wish.
I need to make this if you turn your, no, sorry. Apologize, Mr. Roche. We will, Miss Nix will give a brief closing after Mr. Tolbert. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Talbot, would you like to make a closing statement at this time?
Yes, I would. I would like to apologize to the victim family. I'm very remorseful. And I would like to say I can't imagine all the pain and suffering I put you through over the years. I can't imagine the pain and suffering you had to go through. But I apologize. I'm remorseful. And I would also like to say I had wrote a victim impact letter. I don't know if they read it or not. I wrote one for them.
Thank you, Mr. Talbot. Ms. Nix?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Good morning. My name is Amberly Nix, and I assisted Mr. Tolbert in preparing for this hearing over the past few months, and I also prepared the brief that was submitted to the board for their consideration. There's no denying that Mr. Tolbert committed a senseless and heinous act of violence 27 years ago. There's no denying that. However, the relevant inquiry in this Miller hearing is whether or not Mr. Tolbert has demonstrated maturity in rehabilitation over the past 27 years. I would like to point out that Mr. Tolbert began his rehabilitation well before he even had the opportunity for release through the Miller decision. He got his GED in 1999. He gained many of his certificates like anger management, this 12-step program, and the parenting skills program that he wants to use if he gets out to see his daughter. All of those were in the early 2000s, like I said, well before he had the opportunity to even sit before you all today for this. I would also like to point out that Mr. Tolbert does have an exemplary disciplinary record. He only has 9 write-ups throughout the last 27 years. More than half of those were in the very first years of his incarceration when he was still very young. In fact, he only has 3 write-ups since he turned 25 in 2002, nearly 2 decades ago. I don't know where the paperwork would say this, but just last week, he was recommended to be restored to a Class A trustee status, further proving that he is a trusted inmate within the prison and he can be trusted to follow any of the conditions that the parole committee may set for him should he be released. And like Mr. Hunley said, one of the best indicators of his rehabilitation and maturity is how he conducted himself since his last hearing. He heeded the advice of the committee and remained write-up free. He took victims awareness. He actually enrolled in Thinking for a Change twice because he was nearly finished with it the first time when the pandemic hit. And he recently re-enrolled because he's committed to his rehabilitation and he thought that that class was really, really important for that. Mr. Tolbert has the support of the Parole Project and his family, those that are on screen today and those who are watching live. And he wishes to use his skills that he gained through the mentoring program and his religious programs to mentor the youth in the community, to give them a chance that he didn't have. He gained those skills throughout his incarceration. Mr. Tolbert's great disciplinary record, his commitment to rehabilitation through programming, and his faith in the Lord, accompanied by his low-risk Tiger score, make him an ideal candidate for release that really embodies the principles of the Miller decision about juveniles. He has changed from a 17-year-old immature juvenile who made a horrible, horrible decision to the almost 45-year-old man, mature, grown man that is in front of you today. And it is for these reasons we ask the committee to allow Mr. Tolbert to go home to his family and grant his release. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thank you, Ms. Nix. Does that conclude your presentation, Ms. Hogan? Can I get a motion?
I motioned for executive session to discuss confidential matters related to this case.
We have a motion on the floor to go into executive session. Ms. Teresa, would you call the roll?
Ms. Parole,
Yes.
Mr. Roche,
Yes.
and Mr. Marabella.
Yes.
We're back from executive session. Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot, I will vote first because your case was assigned to me. Mr. Talbot, I appreciate you taking the programs. I appreciate you doing everything you've done since the last hearing. But I am concerned. I have major concerns about your disciplinary record, even though some people say it's excellent. I don't think. I see a pattern of disciplinary write-ups from 1999, then you had one 4 or 5 years later, then you had another 4 or 5 years later, and then your write-up in 2017, as I said before, I equated to racketeering while incarcerated, and it shows a lack of maturity. It shows that you have a tendency to fall back into your old way of doing things, because this write-up happened some 23 years after your crime. And 23 years later, you were involved in an enterprise that sold illegal merchandise to your fellow inmates and caused them probably many, many contraband write-ups. So basically, because of a general disciplinary conduct that's unacceptable, very strong opposition from the DA's office, opposition from law enforcement, and adamant opposition from the victim's family, my vote today will be to deny your early release. Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Mr. Tolbert, I agree with Mr. Roche. I have some very serious concerns about that write-up in 2017, because it seems to me that you've reverted back, at least back then, to your old days. And that's a real problem for me. You have done some positive things, and I commend you for that. I would encourage you to continue to do those things. Perhaps the next time you come up for parole and you've done some more things, maybe this will be far enough behind you and you'll have a record showing that you are a good disciplinary risk. But right now, I have some serious concerns. My vote likewise would be to deny you today. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. Mrs. Wise.
Mr. Talbot, in looking at your record, I voted on July 13th, 2021 in favor of a rehearing that resulted in today. But having read your material and listened to the testimonies today, I concur with my colleagues. My vote is to deny as well for the reasons already stated. And I do want to encourage you as well. I echo the other sentiments. Continue to stay on the path that you're on. And just continue to do well and take programs and grow you. But today my vote is to deny. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Mr. Talbot.
Yes, sir.
You have received 3 votes to deny your request. Your request for early release has been denied. Thank you. Thank everyone for their participation. This concludes this hearing.
Now I'll just share with you the update that we have, and that is that he is back. It's a little more than 4 years later, and he is going to take another bite at the apple. So we're going to jump in and watch that parole hearing. But before we do, I want to, get a few things off my chest and then just review the appeal. And I'll do this quickly, but I think it's important, again, to have all the context. Maybe I'll jump into the appeal first, just so, again, you can see how utterly shocking this crime is. And the idea that he writes it off that he's on marijuana is so disturbing. And the victims really hit the nail on the head with that. It's like, really? If that was all that caused it, some devil's lettuce, then he truly is a danger. And of course, that's not what caused it. It's just insane. And here's the facts. Let's go through it real quick. And if you want to skip ahead, I leave a timestamp there where you can jump ahead to the next hearing. I'll leave the timestamp for you in the description. So Wilma Liberto and her son Paul were proprietors of the Liberto neighborhood grocery store in Shreveport, Louisiana, operated by the family since 1953. I mean, you can't even imagine, like 40 years you run a business for then some punk to come in and shoot you in the face. On the afternoon of August 1st, 1994, the Libertos were working in their store cashing checks for their patrons. The first day of each month was a particularly busy day, as the Libertos had more than $28,000 in cash in the store for check cashing purposes. Paul Liberto, a former Marine, wore a handgun on his hip as he worked. Calvin, the defendant, and 4 of his friends, Marcus, Santos Rushing, Jared Dixon, and Antoine Holmes, planned to rob the Libertos of their check cashing bankroll. At about 1:15 p.m., the men came in and began to case the store, but left because the store was full of customers cashing checks. Some minutes later, when there were fewer customers, Tolbert, Randall, and Rushing re-entered the store. Latanya Dillard, sitting across the street from the Liberto store, watched the men as they went inside. Noticing that Tolbert had a handgun, she called 911 and summoned the police. Wow, so here's a good Samaritan that is seeing this happening, calls the police before a shot's even fired. As the men re-entered, Margaret Smith and her son Jimmy were at the store's counter, and Paul Alberto had just begun to cash Miss Smith's check. Suddenly, without making a demand or saying anything at all, Calvin Tolbert drew a pistol and shot Paul Alberto in the neck. As the gun went off in Miss Smith's ear, stunning her, Tolbert turned and shot 77-year-old Wilma Liberto in the face. See, this is the devil's lettuce does not make you shoot a woman in the face. Like, if you want to go to and say, well, he was nervous, there's a Marine with a gun back there, and he shot. I mean, like, but then the cherry on the top, he turns and shoots a 77-year-old woman in the face. You don't get a second chance. You don't get to say you're 17 years old. You don't get to say that it was the devil's lettuce that made you do it. No, you are a cold-blooded, empatheticless, psychopathic killer. Just my opinion. I'm not diagnosing anyone. I'm just speculating on an obvious situation like this. Yes, I took Dr. Grande's line. Both of the librettos fell to the floor immobilized. Randall then drew his own weapon and shot the helpless Paul Libretto once in the back. That's his co-defendant. The men took several $100s from the cash register. All of these events were recorded for the store surveillance system, but as the men left, Rushing switched the system off. Tolbert, Randall, and Rushing fled the scene. Wow, you're so smart. You turned the system off after it recorded you. For a few $100. The Smiths ran out of the store, and Jimmy Smith watched as another man wearing a ski mask went into the store. After Mr. Smith heard a sound like a gunshot, the masked man, later identified as Dickerson, ran back out of the store. Dietrich Gilliards, a neighborhood youth, saw Holmes and the masked Dickinson leave the store. He testified that Dickinson was carrying cash as he left. The 15-year-old Holmes had his hands up as he ran away. Paul Libretto said that one of the persons who entered the store the second time fired a shot at him, but missed. Michael Gilliard, 8 years old at the time, heard gunshots and said that he saw the men leaving the scene carrying money, guns, and a videotape. Oh, they took the tape. He knew two of the men by their first names, Calvin and Jared, and identified Talbot as one of the men fleeing the scene in the store with a gun and money. He knew Talbot was a friend of his brother's. He also saw Dickerson put on a ski mask and go into the store. I mean, it's just sick. So Randall got armed robbery, attempted second murder. Rushing got armed robbery. Dickinson got simple robbery. And Holmes actually got immunity from prosecution. So I'll leave this in the description. There's a lot. This is quite a detailed appeal. Thank you. This is going into the spreadsheet. I have Lady Holly and Sir Richard here making it possible with the return of spreadsheet. I know Lady Holly is no longer here with us, but it always feels like she is here with us when we get to go into the spreadsheet and see her work. I can give you an example. This is the spreadsheet. Look how amazing it is. So as you can see here, here are the different names. And then here's the links. Anything in orange means that they had a prior hearing. So you can see the date, 2/5/2025. This means we know that it had a prior hearing. I know how to connect the dots, do the return of playlist, and here's all the research for each hearing. And this is just one docket. So again, give a shout out. Say a prayer for Lady Holly. Oh yeah, I haven't heard from her since the last update, and I do fear the worst. I do fear the worst. So let's just go from here. Let's jump into the next hearing, and I'll share more thoughts at the end.
Tolbert, would you please state your name and your DOC number for the record?
Calvin Tolbert, 383656.
Okay, Mr. Tolbert, I'm going to read a little bit of information into the file. You are serving a life sentence that's been commuted down to, oh no, you're a juvenile lifer. That's right. Sorry, you're a juvenile lifer. So you're under the Miller legislation. You're serving a sentence of life from 2019 was your parole eligibility date. You're not eligible for good time. And so you are a rehearing. We've already heard you once. So at this time, I'd like to hear from you, sir. And if you can explain to us why you're here and why we should consider release today.
Okay. While I'm here, I committed a crime when I was 17 years old. Went in a grocery store, the Raleigh grocery store. I shot Wilma Liberto and Paul Liberto in the course of the robbery. Me and my friends. And during my last two hearings, I had a chance to hear the victims and how they feel. You know what I'm saying? And then I started praying for them also, because it really impacted me on the way how they feel and how things went. After Paul got out of the hospital, No, found out that his mother was dead and all that stuff. And the family, the struggle they had to go through to take care of him. So I understand and I feel where they're coming from. I pray for them. And I just ask for my apologies to the family. And that's the reason why I'm here. And during the course of coming here, I bettered myself. I was a high school dropout. I got to school, got my GED. I also have a kid that I wasn't there for, so I took up parenting to learn how to take care of my kids. But now I have grandkids, so the parenting certificate will pay off. Then I got in the church to learn about life in general and about the Lord and the way the value of a life. Because I really didn't know. I was a young, immature boy out there following others, just trying to fit in. So as I matured more, I got in more self-help programs. I got into substance abuse when it wasn't available to us. So I got in the club. They gave us substance abuse, self-help programs to better myself. And then when it was available to life, I got in the original DOC substance abuse program, Limited Balance 1 and 2, to help out. Then I took up anger management. And then after anger management, had a little fall for grace. I got a write up. With a big write up. I did a write up. I sit up there and went to extended lockdown, 23-1, 23 hours in the cell, 1 day on the hall for recreation and phone. Stayed there about a year. Left there, went to the working cell block. Stayed there a couple of months. Then I made the board and went to Falcon to the field line. I then worked myself up, got a job, became the ACA clerk for a little while. Filed the paperwork for ACA, taking care of the bulletin boards. And after that deal, I got a job change doing laundry for the cell blocks in the dungeon, wash the jumpsuits, things like that. Then I got another job change, become a trustee again. I'm on the carpenter crew. We redoing houses and renovating buildings.
I appreciate you letting us know those things that you've accomplished. We have quite a bit of information in our record, but I appreciate you discussing that. We have several members here in support of you, and we would like to go ahead and start with, let's say, your cousin, Eric Mack, on Zoom.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Mr. Mack, if you would address the board.
First, good morning, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak on my cousin's behalf right now. I've actually been with Calvin from the onset of this when it initially started, from the date of that tragic, horrific incident to today. Our family, both families were devastated with the actions that were taken, but we have saw him develop over the years from where he was and to where he is right now. There has been a definite, tremendous change in him. And being here today actually puts me in an emotional state to see him back at this same position again. And our prayers that he is able to come home and live a fulfilling life that we know he can, to see his daughter and see his grandchildren grow up and be productive citizens in this area again. I know what any words can't change the hurt that has caused the Liberto family, and from our family to theirs, we do sincerely wish forgiveness for Calvin, as we ask you to forgive us as well if there's any harboring or feelings towards us as a family, and we pray for you from that day, from August 1994 to today and beyond. But we are asking the board to please take into consideration his maturity, his growth, the ability to be redeemed and rehabilitated, and being a productive citizen once again and in the latter part of his life.
Well, we appreciate you standing by. We do have Terrence Wynn, a friend, who would like to address the panel.
Good morning. Thank y'all. I've been knowing Calvin for a really long time. Calvin has always shown that he wanted to distance himself from the crime that led him to prison. And he's always done everything to try to better himself. When we was running around in prison getting in trouble, Calvin stayed away from it. And it took him years and years and years before he caught another write-up that got him into more trouble within prison. But he always wanted to better himself. Calvin came into prison not knowing how to play basketball. And we used to bring him on the basketball court to try to teach him how to play basketball. And so every day he committed himself to just getting better at playing basketball. But through that commitment, he always showed a resilience not to get into more trouble. And he always showed remorse for what he did to lead him to prison. My organization is willing to help Calvin if he's given a second opportunity in any way he can. Calvin is a really good carpenter. So we have a job opportunity for him at renovating houses and renovating businesses because he's a real good builder. And he's displayed that over the years throughout learning the craft of hobby craft with wood. So in any way Calvin needs support, our organization is geared to link up with Parole Project to help him in any way possible on any level. Because if he's given a second chance, you won't be let down by Calvin. Calvin will show that your judgment in him was valuable and he would appreciate it. And I know he would excel. Thank y'all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Myers.
Good morning again, Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project, here for Calvin Tolbert. We were at Calvin's last parole hearing. We will continue to support Calvin as a juvenile lifer. That is one of Parole Project's priorities, is assisting juvenile lifers through this process. The board well knows the propensity for juveniles to make bad decisions. The brain science is clear. Calvin was 17 years old, and it doesn't excuse the action, the results of the action. Nothing does. But it does have a tale about maturity and growing from the children that make these decisions based on peer pressure and the inability to reason. Calvin's grown in prison. He has educated himself. His programming is there in front of you. You've seen the programming that he's taken. He became a leader in prison. And one of the things he learned in that 2017 write-up is leaders also have accountability. Leadership comes with accountability. And that is the biggest lesson Calvin has learned from that. By turning blind eyes to things that were going on, he understands that is not the way a leader operates anymore. And he understands that completely. We continue to support Calvin. We have a long-term program for Calvin. Calvin will be a long-term client of Parole Project. He has, at his age and his employable skills, we know that Calvin can become self-sufficient. We're committed to him for as long as that takes. He'll continue to have our support. And we ask this board to consider all the factors involved in Calvin's rehabilitation and grant his release.
Thank you. I would ask Warden if you have something to say before we allow the Hutchinson, if that's okay with you.
That's right. I've known Calvin a very long time. He kind of went through all of his self-help programs. He's done a lot to try to help himself. He did have that hiccup in 2017, but he did his penance. He started over at the bottom and worked his way back to where he is now and hasn't had a hiccup since then. So, you know, he took his lick and worked his way back.
Now, Ms. Hutchinson, I'll give you the opportunity to close for the support.
Thank you, Board. While Calvin isn't necessarily long-winded in his answers, I assure you that his words are sincere. He's tremendously sorry, humbled, and changed. Calvin will admit to you that at the time of the crime, he was in the throes of juvenile delinquency. The wrong crowd is very different when we look at juveniles. The mere presence of peers triggers an increase in risk-taking, impulsivity, and utterly bad decision-making. Everything about this crime reeks of juvenile bad decision-making, the time of day, the actions of the crime, everything. But that number, that age, really shows us why we consider juveniles different, because it means that their traits are not well formed and there's a greater likelihood to change and become a better person. And the courts were right when they made that decision, because we see juvenile recidivism rates at somewhere around 2%, while the national average is closer to 50 to 70%. So they were right, the juveniles change like Calvin has. He's sincere in his words and calm and thoughtful these days. He's slower to make actions and he's gonna think through things. He's done the things that this committee has asked of him from his previous hearing. They wanted to see more consistency, growth, and maturity. You're looking at a man who can identify his mistakes, is not afraid to seek out help, and will work hard to regain the trust of the community. That's a far cry from the 17-year-old he was in 1994. This man today isn't that 17-year-old. He's grown, learned, adjusted, and rehabilitated within this institution throughout his 20s, his 30s, and now his 40s, almost 50s. He is thoughtful in his decision-making to come home. After the last hearing, his plan was to return to Shreveport, but understanding the trauma in that community, he's decided to set roots in Baton Rouge in the event that he's granted parole. His family is still willing to support him, but this removes him from that environment and also just from anybody that would be re-traumatized with him returning. I think that shows growth. I think that shows maturity. I think that shows the remorse and humbleness within him. We ask that you trust LPP to do what we've done for countless other juveniles lifers and help them reintegrate and become successful with their second chance. Calvin can talk to you about it, one of his greatest aspirations is to be able to connect with the youth on the outside. He's been able to teach Thinking for a Change while here, and he thinks that that would be incredible to teach to youth in the community to possibly curb the outcomes that he's had with himself. Calvin has proven, like Graham said, that there's no way to tell if a juvenile would be a danger to society for the rest of their life, and I believe Calvin has shown that he's not that danger. Today, we ask that you evaluate Calvin as the court deemed appropriate with juvenile offenders like him, and base the consideration off of his growth and maturity and not the hallmark features of his youth that were present at the time of the crime. And I'm here for any questions the board may have in reference to the brief or anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go to the opposition. We do have two granddaughters, Ray Dunn and Rhonda Gardner. Ms. Gardner would like to speak, and we will give her that opportunity now.
Yes, good morning, all. I don't have anything written down because it was, you just don't work that way. You think too much. You try to go on the fly. A lot of things that we've said and tried to explain how it affected our family is already on record. I'm thankful that it sounds like Calvin knows the Lord, because I've prayed for that. I've heard a lot said of how he's changed and then a lot said because of his youth. And I would just like to say the choices he made
he was the one, whether somebody else was putting up to it or not, he was the one that made those choices. No one forced him to go into there. He was by himself in that. When he made the choice, I think that it was because the news report said that if you went in to rob her, she'd probably shoot you. And he went in determined that if he was going to rob the place, he had to shoot to kill. That's what he did. He blew her brains out. My brother Ron will forever be traumatized because he cleaned them up. My mother never slept in the same room after my stepfather died 3 years later. He was paralyzed and lived in the room for 3 years. And that's just a simple thing. I would like to know, it's a good idea if you do let him out, that he doesn't go back to Shreveport because the majority of the family is there. I myself, though, live north of Baton Rouge, and the idea of him being out and not getting back on drugs and not wanting to take revenge because he's been in jail all this time against any of us is a worry for me. But I would like to say we were told that when all this came down, that there was a choice. He could be charged with life in prison or the death penalty. And my stepfather and mother, Paul, decided because of his age, the death penalty would be okay with them. He chose the death penalty to be charged with. And we were also told that if he ever did get out, then he would be recharged with attempted murder on Paul. So if 3 years ago, when he went through all these classes and he's a good guy now, but he broke the rules and he had an illegal phone, how can you assure me that if he gets out now, he's not going to break the rules again? And also, when he agreed to life in prison, that was an agreement that we all agreed to. That's the consequences of what he did. I'm sorry, but he gets to see and speak, gets to know he's got a daughter. Okay? I don't get to see and speak with my stepfather ever again. Never. So I think he's already, even though life in prison is not easy, by no means did it traumatize him as much as us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gardner. The case has been assigned to Mr. Tillis. At this time, Mr. Tillis, if you'd like to ask some questions.
Good morning, good afternoon, or still morning. How are you today?
Okay.
Good. Were you on drugs at the time of the crime? You were? Okay. All right. I see you've been doing well, and the warden and everyone is speaking very, and your friends good of you, and that's good. I hope you continue that path.
I will.
I have no more questions.
Ms. Renata. So, Calvin,
Yes, ma'am.
so the write-up that kind of got you off track was in 2017,
Yes, ma'am.
8 years ago, and you, as Warden Benoit said, you really had to start all over. It was a severe penalty. And I think what Mr. Myers said was that situation, and it had to do with cell phones and whatever, and you were the president of the Concept Club, and you were turning a blind eye to some activity that was going on around you.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you took, well, you and 10 others got wrote up, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
So you paid a pretty stiff penalty for that. What did you learn from that experience?
Well, I learned not to turn the blind eye. And I learned either do something about it or remove myself from that situation.
And okay, good. And so how old are you now?
47,
And you've been in jail how long?
30 years.
So parents talked about teaching you how to play basketball. What about football?
Well, I already knew how to play football from middle school and high school, but basketball, I didn't have no idea.
Because the record shows that you were in your team won the Crunch Bowl 5 different seasons.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you coach at all?
No, I was a cornerback.
Ah, okay. Well, there is some very, very, you know this, because I'm sure it was mentioned to you at your hearing in 2021. There's adamant opposition by law enforcement. There's adamant opposition from the district attorney's office. And I agree with the plan that my note said he should not ever go back to Shreveport. And we heard from Ms. Gardner, you know, the victim's family is still devastated of what happened to them. Have you done victim awareness?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you do that program? I didn't make a note of it. Do you remember?
2019.
2019.
What'd you learn from that?
I learned about, we had a victim impact board of the victim talking about their feelings, but I really had a chance to witness it firsthand from my last hearing, hearing the Liberta family and the way it impacted them and hurt them and the things they had to go through with Paul. He woke up and found out his mother was missing. Then he was paralyzed. He had to take care of, change his clothes and shoes and things like that there, you know. And it really touched me and it hurt me. So I went to praying more for them as well, not only for me, but for those two.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions. The board is prepared to vote.
Yes. Mr. Kelvin, I'm really pleased that you've made a change and glad to see you moving forward. With strong opposition from law enforcement and the family, my vote today is going to be to deny.
Ms. Renata? Calvin, I believe that you did everything that the previous panel, you were denied twice before, I believe, in 19 and 2021. I think you did everything that panels asked you to do. You learned a very valuable lesson from your 2017 hiccup, is what Benoit refers to it. My vote would be to grant you to the parole project plan, long-term plan, with special conditions that you do not go back to Shreveport. You be restricted travel to Caddo Parish at all. You can perform community service work with at-risk youth and have absolutely no contact with any member of the Liberto family. Mr. Tolbert, my vote is to deny parole at this time. I have a real concern with what happened. The hiccup is a big deal to me because I think it was something that spoke to character. I want to see, you know, a little bit more time while you're in. So today your your parole has been denied. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Wow, it came that close to a grant. He did not need a unanimous grant. He has all the programs, everything he needs. It came that close. I don't know, Miss Renatza granting. You tell me. What do you feel? I mean, I just don't trust it. I don't trust it at all. First of all, I think that while he's overseeing that, he's still a criminal mind. And he was 17 years old, Mandoo. He's been locked up for 30 years, and it's 1994. Yeah, 30 years. Like, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I think it just takes it takes a certain kind of person to be able to shoot grandma in the face. And it's also like I don't see, you didn't feel the empathy. You don't feel emotion. You don't actually feel it. It's just kind of like he's just there talking. And you know what's interesting too about this case is the DA doesn't show up to the second hearing. Why not? I can never understand that. Just show up. You know, you did a great job in the first one. Where were you in the second one? And so it's such a quick hearing too. You know, these second hearings. It's just a different process. I don't really like them. Frankly, I like the old board, the old process. They wanted to understand someone. You can get so much more by asking the questions that they ask, by going through the motions. Here it's just like, tell us a statement. All right, let's hear statements. Okay, the parole project. Okay, you're denied. And it's just lacking. It's lacking so much. And you know, I did something different for these hearings. Normally I'll bring in the 2025 hearing and then do a flashback to the past, but I didn't do that this time. I'm trying to talk into my microphone to blot out the background sound. I don't know if you can hear it or not. It's early in the morning, kids are going to school, and I'm trying to get this done before I start my day job because this is not my day job. This is my passion project. I love doing this. Now, okay, I lost track. So instead of doing flashback in the past, I started just with the hearing and then said, "Hey, now we're doing hearing number 2," and I mixed things up. Now, you have to leave. I'm asking you, please let me know in the comment section which you prefer. I usually, when I ask for you to let me know in the comment section, I'll see 3 or 4 comments, and it doesn't give me real data. Some of you say, "I like the flashback in the past," and 2 say, "I like it this way." So now I have 2 comments for, 2 comments against. I don't know what to do with that. So if you can please let me know what you prefer, flashbacks or like this, so I can have a better idea of what to do moving forward. But look, it's just such a horrific crime. I don't think parole, as long as the victims are saying no, you know, you just you just can't get it, in my opinion. I don't. These type of crimes are they're so disturbing to me. You know, it's not a robbery gone wrong. I want to let you know, like, if there's a robbery gone wrong, which by the way, that's a very, you know, we often see that robberies gone wrong aren't really wrong. What they'll say is they went into the store and the gun went off, you know. But there are different scenarios. We see robberies where this was different. This was he pulled out his gun and he shot and then he shot. And it's like, no, you just don't care about life. You don't you don't get a second chance. And I believe there is something different about that person, and it's not the devil's lettuce that made him do it. You know, it'd be one thing even if he's on like PCP or something. At least you can like understand, well, okay, you know, his brain's like totally warped. But here it's no, he went in, he knew that the guy had a gun, and he just wanted cash, and none of it, nothing else mattered. But even then, you don't get the pass because there's no reason to go ahead and shoot his mother. 77-year-old Wilma Liberto, he shot her in the face. You don't get a second chance. And people could say to me, they say, Mandoo, where is your empathy? Where is your empathy for this poor little boy? He was just 17 years old. And it's, you know, the funniest thing is it's so easy. It's so easy to counter that. If you've ever asked that question, it's the easiest question to counter. And you just look at that person and you say, where's your empathy for the victims? You know, it's just silly. It's like, where's your empathy for the victims who you can actually see and hear in their voice their pain? You see in their face their pain. Do you see that pain in Calvin? Does he show even like a tiny, a 10% of it? Do you see anything? Did he touch a tissue? Did he shed a tear? Do you see any of that empathy in his family? By the way, talking about that in the first hearing, they're literally talking and gabbing like this while the victim is crying, showing no respect for the victim or empathy. You know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it? Would it be that much to have some respect? So when that person says to you or puts in the comment section, "Mandy, where's your empathy?" Right back at you, Mr. Commenter. Now you give me a good answer. Give me an answer. Give us an answer that would make us at least ponder. Look, we're not an echo chamber. We're not an echo chamber. We should have different opinions. We can agree to disagree, but I want an answer to my question. Where is the empathy for the victims? I'm waiting. And the truth is, there is no answer. I've never heard it. The only one they would give is they don't care about, look, the victims, they'll be sad, but don't care about them. He's been locked up for 30 years. He was 17. Well, there you go, right? You don't care about the victims. You can't re-victimize the victim on a coin flip because there's data that says recidivism rate. What if he goes out and shoots someone else? You can't teach empathy. But even then, who cares? It's you want to re-victimize the victims? It's the funniest thing. But yeah, have that in your back pocket the next time someone tells you that you're a cold, heartless person for wanting to keep this man in prison. It's always like the support with the rainbows and butterflies, and then those who had the clean brains, the brains of 77-year-old Wilma Liberto off the floor. Then you listen to that. You listen to him describe it and talk about it, while all those in support sit there with blank stares on their faces. And with that, I'll let you go.
Yeah, but way he killed Wilma is horrible because I'm the person that I don't mean to sound, I'm just going to tell you like it is, straight up. Her brains are scattered all over in that room. Just coming out the doorway, he shot her. Her brains went out all over. Blood was all over the floor. And Paul was laying in his own pool of blood. So when the cops got there and they do their little thing and left, I had to clean it up. There was no one else that could handle it. I cleaned it up using bleach, Pine Sol, and I still couldn't get it all up. It was stained so good. And let me tell you, seeing pits of a person's brain, especially someone who I love, it affected me deeply. And he deserves to spend the rest of his life in prison because I truly believe you let that man out, he'd do worse things than what I'm telling you about if it's possible.